So in this short video tutorial, we are going to practice multiplying decimals by whole number, decimals by decimals, and whole numbers and decimals by decimals. Okay, so we're going to start up here at number 1, and we have to multiply our number at A, and we have to multiply 0.25 times 1. And so what's important here, when we're multiplying out the sum, the question really becomes, where do we place the decimal in the answer? And so what we do is we multiply the sum out first as normal, and then we add the decimal place afterwards. And when we're adding the decimal place, all we do is we look at the sum and we count how many numbers are after the decimal point in the sum, and that decides how many places we put the decimal point in after we multiply. So if we look at the first sum, there are 2 numbers after the decimal point in the first line, and there are no numbers after the decimal point in the second line. So let's multiply this out as normal and then place the decimal point. So we multiply 1 times 5, so that's 5. Then we multiply 1 times 2 is 2, and 1 times 0 is 0. So we've multiplied out our sum, and we just need to figure out where we're going to place the decimal. So let's look at the sum. Well, there's 2 numbers after the decimal point in the first line, and there are no numbers after the decimal point in the second line. So let's come in 2 spaces from the right. So let's go 1 and 2, and let's place our decimal point in there. And so when we multiply 0.25 by 1, we get 0.25. Or if you think about it, when we multiply a quarter, 0.25 is the same as a quarter, by 1, we get a quarter. Okay, let's look at B now. And in B, this time, if we look at the sum of 0.37 times 0.1, and as we can see from this sum, there are 2 numbers after the decimal point in the first line and 1 number after the decimal point in the second line. So let's multiply the sum out as normal, and let's place the decimal point afterwards. So let's times 1 by 7, that gives us 7. 1 times 3, that gives us 3. 1 times 0 gives us 0. And we don't have to multiply out the second line, but there's no harm because it will help us later on. So like in standard multiplication or multiplication of whole numbers, when we move on to the second number, we have to place a 0 in to move our place value in by 1 position. So let's multiply 0 times 7, that's 7, 0 times 3, that's 0, and 0 times 0 is 0. And again then we just add these together. So 7 plus 0 is 7, 3 plus 0 is 3, 0 plus 0 is 0, and 0 plus 0 is 0. So now what we have to do is figure out where we're going to place the decimal point. So let's look at the sum. There's 2 numbers after the decimal point in the first line, and there's 1 number after the decimal point in the second line. So we need to come in 3 spaces. So let's go in 1 space, 2 spaces, and 3 spaces. And our answer to 0.37 multiplied by 0.1 is 0.037. Okay, let's move on to a harder one now. On C, so C we're going to multiply 0.38 times 0.69. And again, if you look at the sum, there's 2 numbers after the decimal point in the first line and 2 numbers after the decimal point in the second line. So let's multiply this out as normal, and then let's add. Okay, so 9 eighths are 72. Let's put down our 2 and carry our 7. 9 threes are 27, plus 7 is 34. Put down our 4 and carry our 3. 9 zeros are 0, plus 3 gives us 3. And then we move on to the second line. So in the first line we multiplied it by 0.08. The second line we're going to multiply it by 0.6. And we have to put in our 0 because we've moved in a place in our place value. Okay, so let's go 6 eighths, that's 48. Put down your 8 and carry your 4. 6 threes are 18, plus 4 is 22. Put down your 2 and carry your 2. And 6 zeros are 0, plus 2 gives us 2. Now we could multiply it by 0, but we're not going to this time. We will in the next sum. So we're just going to add these together as normal. So 0 plus 2, that gives us 2. 8 plus 4 gives us 12. Put down your 2, carry 1. 3 plus 3 gives us 6. And 2 plus 0 gives us 2. So what we need to do now is decide exactly where we're going to place the decimal point. So let's look at the sum. And in the first line, there's 2 numbers behind the decimal point. And in the second line, there's 2 numbers behind the decimal point. So that's 4 altogether. So this time we need to come in 4 spaces. So let's come in 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so our answer is 0.2622. Okay, let's move on to D. And in D, then we're multiplying whole numbers and decimals by whole numbers and decimals. So starting off again, we're going to multiply 1.24 by 0.08. That's going to be our first line. In the second line, we're going to multiply 1.24 by 0.6. And then in the third line, we're going to multiply 1.24 by 3. And then we're just going to add all of our answers together. I'm actually going to take out that line in case we need that space later on. Okay, so let's look across this. So we're going to multiply by 0.08 first. So 8 fours, that's 32. Put down your 2, carry your 3. 8 twos are 16, plus 3 is 19. Put down your 9 and carry your 1. 8 ones are 8, plus 1 is 9. Now we move on to multiplying it by 0.6, so we need to put in our 0. 6 fours, that's 24. Put down your 4 and carry your 2. 6 twos are 12, plus 2 is 14. Put down your 4 and carry your 1. 6 ones are 6, plus 1 is 7. Now we need to multiply 1.24 by 3, and we need to put in 2 zeros because we've moved in 2 spaces on our place value. So let's multiply 3 times 4, that's 12. Put down your 2 and carry your 1. 3 twos are 6, plus 1 is 7. And then 3 times 1, that gives us 3. So now we've multiplied them, we just need to add them together, and we have them nicely stacked. So 0 plus 0 plus 2, that gives us 2. 4 plus 9, that gives us 13. Put down your 3 and carry your 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. Plus 4 is 7. Plus 9 is 16. Put down your 6 and carry your 1. 7 plus 1 is 8. Plus 7 is 15. Put down your 5 and carry your 1. And 3 plus 1 is 4. So we've multiplied and we've added, and we just need to find out now where we're going to place our decimal point. So let's look at the sum. In the first line, there's 2 numbers behind the decimal point. In the second line, there's 2 numbers behind the second decimal point. So we're going to come in 4 spaces altogether. Let's go 1, 2, 3, and 4. And let's place our decimal point here. And our answer to 1.24 times 3.68 is 4.5632.